Welcome back. Now let's discuss the basics aspects of disability. Now, as per Rights of Person with Disability Act 2016, we have around 21 different kinds of disabilities. Now, we are not going to discuss all the disabilities, but when it comes to accessibility, we are just going to focus on some major disabilities. Now, I'm also going to share one particular link so that you can go through it and can find out the different kinds of disabilities. Now, before we talk about the disabilities, we should also understand the different kinds of terminologies that we have to use. Now, what is the terminology all about? When you want to talk about disability, there are certain things which you have to remember it. Now, as per Rights of Person with Disability Act, the government says that you have to use people first language. Instead of saying disabled person, use person first, use people first language. So, person with disability, people with disability. Instead of saying disabled person, use always person, right? Person first, person with disability, people with disability. And we should not use, say, handicapped or retarded or say crippled or say stricken or poor, unfortunate, special needs. All these things we should avoid using it, especially when you're talking to a person with disabilities. Avoid all these terminologies. So always use people first language. Now, when it comes to major disabilities, for example, say people with speech and hearing impairment, we can also call them as deaf. And deaf is a most appropriate term, and this term has been given by the deaf community itself. They are okay to use this particular term. They are proud to associate themselves in that community. So, deaf is a very appropriate term universally. Now, person with vision impairment, blind, right? Person with intellectually challenge, person with autism, person with Down syndrome. So these are the terminologies which we have to make sure whenever you are talking about any aspects on disability. Now, now having focused on all these things, let's also try to understand the ground realities. Now, as per WHO, right, 15% of world population are people with disabilities. Now, in India, based on 2011 census, overall 2% of Indian population are people with disabilities. Now, at 2%, which means 26.8 million people are people with disabilities in India. Now, out of these, around 18 million people are people with speech and hearing impairment. Now, assuming that at least half of the population are youth population, okay, who are looking for jobs. Now, think in this particular way. In our country, have we given them enough opportunities, especially for people with disabilities, so that they can start their livelihood? Maybe we can start counting some numbers, say 30, 40 companies or 50 companies or 60 companies. By being the largest democracy in this world, have we generated sufficient employment for people with different kinds of disabilities? That's a question which we have to think. Now, before that, let me ask you one more question. Why we have to hire a person with disability? What is the need? Of course, not for a charity, but yes, there is a business angle to it. There's a business case for hiring a person with disability. So, what is a business case exactly? Now, people with disabilities, they make very good, dependable employees. It increases the workforce morale. Okay, it increases the productivity of the organization. And if your customer knows that you have employed people with disabilities, they'll be happy to work with you. And they have a very negligible, the company has a very negligible retention rate, and they are very untapped potential in the market, right? So these are some basic business cases so that you should start hiring people with disabilities. Now, when it comes to job, again, let me give you one example. Now, I cannot give a sales job to a deaf person. Why? Because it requires a lot of talking. It requires communication skills. In the same way, I cannot give a marketing job to a wheelchair user because that requires a lot of travel. Though they can, but becomes a little bit difficult. So what we have to do is we have to carefully do the job mapping based on the abilities of the person. Okay, not about the disability. So you need to find what is this person is all about. Okay, what he can do. Okay, find out the abilities of a person and then try to map the job responsibility. So this is the way you should do a job mapping. Now, based on my experience in the last 6 to 7 years, I have seen a lot of people with disabilities working in different sectors. Some of the example which I can give you is a person with autism. They are working in in testing fields, in technology field. A deaf person, they are working in again technology, back office support. People with vision impairment, they are accessible testers. and a lot of companies have started hiring visually impaired for the back office jobs and for say testing jobs, quality control job, and people with locomotor disability, again they are doing fantastic jobs in terms of say website designing, SEO, online marketing, digital marketing, etc. So I mean we need to analyze a job responsibility along with the abilities, right? Now, what makes them working in these companies, right? So, a couple of companies have employed people with disabilities, but what is the main thing that has attracted people with disabilities to join in these companies? Yes, that is accessibility. And that is what we are going to discuss in our next video. Thank you and stay tuned.